I'm doing my best to make sure that nobody gets derailed just because they didn't do well academically. So I've made that my mission. That I didn't become the street guy, drug addict, dog chasing, chela, all those things they associate with you failing exams. I didn't become any of that, but rather I become an activist, a builder, a problem solver to make sure nobody will have to go through what I went through again.
What would it take to really create a prosperous Africa where every African has the opportunity to thrive and not just survive through life? That's what we talk about at the Bold New Normal podcast. We talk to leaders about their areas of endeavor, the work that they're doing to bring the Bold New Normal to life within their sphere of influence, their staying power, and the fact that they serve as an example of what is possible. Join us. So, Cecil, welcome to the Bold New Normal podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Since 2020, I've been wanting to get back on the Bold New Normal. So I'm happy I'm here now.
Yes, you're absolutely here now. But, I think it's interesting that you use the word wanting to get back, because I feel that you're one of those people who have been part of this journey from the start. So before we dive in, Cecil, just do a quick intro of yourself to our audience today. Who are you? What do you do?
So I'm a father. I'm an entrepreneur. I lead a team of almost 30 now, but then I've had very difficult beginnings, especially when it comes to academics. So there was almost no hope that I could ever be whatever I've said before this. So for me to look back and see that the Mensa turned out to be the cornerstone is an incredible story for myself sometimes. And I am grateful to everyone that has contributed to where I am today. So to put it in a nutshell, I'm doing my best to make sure that nobody gets derailed just because they didn't do well academically. So I've made that my mission. That I didn't become the street guy, drug addict, dog chasing, chela, all those things they associate with you failing exams. I didn't become any of that, but rather I become an activist, a builder, a problem solver to make sure nobody will have to go through what I went through again.
Yeah. So I'm going to wind the clock back, because the year was 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
And there was this young guy who asked to meet me.
Yeah. Supposed to meet you as early as 7. Yeah.
Wow, it's at the time I came.
Yeah.
So maybe I wanted to meet you before I go to work.
Yeah.
So I remember so well, you had reached out, you wanted to meet with me.
Exactly.
At the time, I was CEO of Airtel at the time. I guess it was a time when I was spending a lot of time on STEM advocacy. You reached out, you wanted to meet this young guy out of, nowhere. And we met.
Yeah.
And I was struck by the story that you told me that day. And you've touched a little bit on it, but let's go back to that time, to that young man who at the time wasn't a father. I don't think you were a husband at that time. You had several dreams, but you were trying to, I guess, dig your way out of where you were and what you had experienced. So what was the story you came to me with that time?
So the underlying issue was, how do I prove to my friends, family, community, ecosystem that I wasn't that bad? Like, I'm actually intelligent. I can make things happen. Stop judging me by some exam. I got frustrated by that. Like, so all you see about me is some SSC results, please. And it was becoming annoying. You could be the best guy in the room. I remember I was part of the Linux Accra group, great public speaking, great presentation skills. And they were like, so which university are you? Which secondary school did you attend? So why are you in the house? It's been 3 years. Won't you go to school? So like everything you do is reduced to some exam. So I was frustrated. I'm like, okay, let me prove to these guys that it's not it's not the individual who determines entirely the outcome of these exams. Systemic problems, right? The underlying systemic failures will make, no matter what, majority of us will end up like me. Just a few will go through. So if you want to address the issue, let's work together to address those systemic underlying problems and stop like fingering people out. Like, it wasn't cool. Nobody was understanding what I was saying. They felt I
Yeah.
was just trying to blame the system for my inability to pass a simple exam for 3 times. So I was like, okay, you know what? If these guys won't listen to me, let me look for those who will listen to me. So I've heard you speak on different occasions. I saw the way you were approaching things from first principles. I know your engineering background. So you were like, look, just imagine things and let them happen. I'm like, okay, maybe, just maybe, this lady will understand where I'm coming from. From all the lot, nobody seems to get what I'm saying. They reduced me to just an exam. If only I could have access to Lucy Quist, maybe, just maybe. And if I get the slightest of endorsement and backing from her, maybe people will stop this negativity and begin to see me differently. So that was the personal thing I wanted, beyond having you to help the company and all of that. But I just wanted an association with people who might, in a way, I can leverage their influence and their success to clean that whole stigma so people can see me differently.
I was struck when we first met in that meeting that you described. I was struck by your determination. I was struck by the fact that you were coming at this, as you've described, from a personal perspective, a personal experience. And I was also struck by the fact that even though we're talking over 10 years ago in Ghana, where not a lot of people were talking about edtech, you were looking at technology and you're looking at how to solve a problem that you had experienced. And as you described, many people were experiencing, because you're right, there are lots of people who get left behind just because they didn't make it through an exam, or they didn't have the opportunity to have the systemic support that helps you get through an exam. So the reason why it was so important for us today to come and speak to you is that I do want people to hear so much about what you're doing with eCampus, and we'll come to that. But as the years have gone on and the Bold New Normal has matured as a platform beyond a book and a conference and so on, we're very focused on the fact that there's some fundamental pillars that we need to build and solve for, whether it's as a Ghanaian ecosystem or an African ecosystem, that really gives people the means to prosper, right? The means to really make something of themselves, because prosperity means I have the opportunity to realize my potential. And what are some of those things? It's exactly what we are calling heart. So it's healthcare, it's education, right? It's agriculture, because we need to eat. It's real enterprise, and it's trade beyond borders, because those last two create jobs. So today we want to really zero in on education, because to your point, exams can be the roadblock that people get through or they do not get through. But at the same time, that human being, whether they make it or not, has a ton of potential and still needs to be educated to make the most of their skills and ability. And education and exam are not necessarily exactly the same thing. But I think you're best placed to tell us that. So tell us a little bit about the Ghanaian education ecosystem at the time that you were thinking of starting eCampus, and how you thought eCampus as an edtech solution will help address some of the gaps in the education system.
All right. So this time travel, 1999. Yeah, I'm that old. So I'm out of uh, junior secondary school. My time was called that way. Junior secondary school, 1998. I was in Kumasi, and then preparing to go to senior secondary school, 1999. So, we're not even, the Y2K didn't happen yet. So typically, you get a prospectus. It's not like now that the computer system choose a school for you. Your parents have to try and go get you a school. So my mom is like, you will do science. And my dad is like, you will do business. All right. So we are quarreling. And I'm like, how about me? Ask me what I want to do. But then 1998, 99, you have no voice. That's just how our culture was. And my dad is like, okay, why don't I go learn some plumbing some electrical engineering, at least get some skill. My mother almost devoid him like a lion. It's like, how dare you, my son, my first child, to go and learn plumbing, go and learn electricals. No, no, you go and do science. And my dad was like, oh, at least let him learn something, some skill. He will go to the school. I even want him to do business. So I'm there observing my parents. I'm like, okay, you guys, what's going on? Nobody has even seek my opinion. So that's setting the base. That even from home, nobody cares about what you have, your abilities, your desires, your imaginations. Nobody cares. So as
Brilliant.
always, the women won. My mother won. So I went to do science at Osei Tutu. I loved it in the beginning, but it was too abstract, right? It should be
You couldn't relate. You couldn't
really
relate to the
realistic,
content.
right? I mean, I loved math, mathematics, elective maths, but I could calculate all that. Then to what end? So I wasn't having it. It became boring. So I said, look, this thing maybe wasn't for me. But then the reading was for me. I like to read. So reading Things Fall Apart, The Gods Are Not to Be Blamed. You know, when we're growing that, I mean, today I don't know if they don't allow them to read. We used to read a lot.
Yeah, I love African Writers series.
We used
They've
to read
got
a lot.
so packed.
Burning Desire, that book, Burning Desire, volume 1 all the way to volume 20. I read all. It was fun. So here is somebody who loves arts and is being forced to do science, right? So I had to blend both. So in my world, whatever I'm learning in science, how can I bring it in art? How can I manifest it immediately? There was no one to guide me on how to do that, so it became boring for me. So over time, interest derailed. So I mean, the effort I was putting in was a bit reduced. I started skipping classes. No, don't worry, I'll come and write the exam. So that's where everything started to fall apart. So my bad. I can't blame the system entirely. I'm also a part of it. Then
It's interesting you describe this, and I can imagine that for many people who listen to this podcast will find that very relatable because many a time secondary school is that crucial time when people end up in choices that are made for them, sometimes because they don't even have enough information to determine what a particular path could lead them to and how they connect to that path. So, thank you for sharing that candidly because it's very relatable to start on a path and then get derailed because it doesn't match with your core competencies or your core interests. But I love the fact that you try to do science rap.
so my mom was like, okay, this is getting out of hand. Let me move you from Kumasi to Accra. Let's find another school for you because you're becoming too stubborn in Kumasi. You're getting too comfortable. So I got to Nungwa Secondary School and I met Miss Banama. I'm like, everything changed. Yeah, it was a bit different for me when I could see girls around and I'm teenager. It felt very different. Say it was a pure boy school, you can walk around naked, do whatever you like. But here now, all of a sudden, you need to even make sure you iron your shirt properly. You need to start like to look good. I mean, boys' school, we don't care. We can wear craft to school. So that kind of had a little impact on me. So I'm like, okay, the ladies are doing better than me in class. That's not cool. I gotta do better, that whole thing. So I started taking things a bit more seriously, and then fast forward, we wrote the exams. But once the foundation was a bit weak, no matter what I was building on it, they were, shaky. So we wrote the exams and it didn't go well. I mean, very bad. And I wasn't surprised because I knew I wasn't
You knew
really,
what
really
was
good.
written.
Yeah. I just wanted to go through the system and be done with it. I remember telling my colleagues that look, I don't want to go to university. I just want to start my own business. I should have listened to my dad and do business. I just want to start my own business. That time was a diplomatic way of saying that even if I fail, I don't care. Although I really do care. I knew I was going to, I'm not going to do well. So instead of
Yeah.
going like, people will meet at Legon or we'll meet at KNUS, I'm like, I'm not interested in university. I don't think it's a good idea. I'll just start my own business.
Was a good cover. Was a good cover story to get ahead of the
I got an
narrative.
alibi. I don't want anybody to come and be laughing at me. But deep down, I knew it's going to be a disaster.
I think we started from where we met and you went back in time to tell your story. And when we think about the ecosystem as a whole, I think what was interesting, really interesting about the things you said is that obviously a child taking direction from loving parents who mean well, but also a child not in a position to have enough information to understand themselves what they would actually like to do. So I guess you couldn't even tell your mom or dad A or B. You just chose almost an emotional choice. She's my mom. I have to listen to my mom. I'm going with my mom. I think what was also interesting in what you said is that as you unpacked, what came across more was, instead of the understanding of a child that may be distracted or uninterested or unmotivated or disengaged, it was more a child who was stubborn.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're rechanneling your energies. But it's interesting that the system, I've talked about the family, but the education system was more focused on your behavior, rather than understanding the root
Cause of
cause
my
of that
behavior.
behavior,
Exactly.
right? Because even when you talked about school transfer, you talked about the fact that the school transfer was that you needed to be in a place where they could deal with
Discipline
you,
me.
right? Which is really interesting because and I know children need discipline, don't get me wrong. But I think this leads me to my next question, really, which is about, if we talked about family, we talked about schooling. Do you think the education system, as it is structured, and I don't think the structure has changed so much over the years, things are improving, but the structure has not changed. So give me your perspective. The child who's really smart, who can engage with academic material, the child who's in between, right? They're not really sure, but they can get by. The child who really, academics may not be the thing that supports me. Supports them, sorry. Tell me your perspective of their experience in this ecosystem, and what do you think eCampus, as you launched it, of these three groups of school children, who are the ones you were really addressing to start with? Could be all, could be one. And was that addressing to disrupt the system, give them an alternative, build a bridge, partner? What was your thinking around that?
Okay, that's a good one. When I was starting eCampus in 2003, I didn't know any of this. All what you're saying, I didn't know. All I wanted to do was I need to write the exam the fourth time. And I'm like, yo, if I fail this time, I'm done. So I need a tool that can help me predict whether I'll pass the core maths, or pass the physics, I'll pass the chemistry before I even go and try for the fourth time. Otherwise, then I have to pack my things from that house. I didn't know about any system, whether GS. I don't know anything. I'll be honest with you. It's 2003. Nothing. So all I was thinking is me. I just wanted some predictability, some feedback, real personalized feedback that I can work with. How can I get that? Unfortunately, the system didn't have that. Our report card system didn't have that. Our coaching system, our teachers were not trained to provide that. So even the remedial schools I was going to, the private teachers my mother took for me, they didn't have a mechanism to give me what I was looking for. They rather thought I was trying to be sly and cheat the system. You see, they're like, why you want to predict? Why you want to? No, no, you don't want to learn. I said, but at least give me some. Let me learn smarter, not learn hard. Like I'm tired. Like I'm getting frustrated about this. It's affecting my psyche, my self-esteem, my confidence. So and they're like, there's nothing, just study hard. I'm like, just study hard. It's not enough. So I needed that predictability, you know, based on what I do. And I wasn't getting it. So, I mean, thanks to mommy again, you know, those days when you finish senior secondary school, it's like automatic. You go to computer classes. You remember that thing? That computer classes, that was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
So you went to a computer class to learn to code.
To learn basics, Microsoft Word, Corel Draw, networking, hardware. Those days coding itself wasn't a thing. Just how to use Office Suite, just how to use computers, how to plug it in, the VGR, the power. So even that, they said I needed discipline. So they took me to the Ghana Air Force computer training school in Takrady, Air Force. I'm like, hey, I'm tired, oh God. I don't know what I've done. Oh.
So once you went over a certain threshold, your life thereafter became defined by first word. He needs discipline, and then
Stubborn.
everything
It's
else
too
can happen.
stubborn.
I think another interesting thing I'll pick out of what you've said so far, and I'm now again focusing on our system, the fact that you challenged the status quo became a mark of stubbornness.
Exactly.
And it's a very interesting thing because today in the workplace, actually, several people are encouraged to challenge the say status quo, especially people who've had long careers, because people become set in their ways. They're not able to adopt change and so on and so forth. And actually, we did a survey when I was in Airtel about this, the extent to which people don't like things to change in Ghana. So the fact that you thought that there was a way to do exams that would give children predictability, or you, in this case, you're just thinking about yourself, was a challenge to the status quo, which everyone struggled with. So here's a situation, you're trying to create a solution for yourself for predictability. You go and do this computer course in Takrady, the military
Now,
base, because
Air
we need
Force base.
Air Force,
So
Air
my
Force base.
teachers were what? Men in uniform. Hey! And when you're coming, they're like, one day I made a mistake and I didn't pass through where humans are, the smaller door at the gate. And I went to pass through the main gate where the cars are supposed to be. I was in that room for almost 4 hours. So yeah, you could see the pressures. But I enjoyed computers. Like now I could do something and see results immediately. That's all I always wanted. So that the rate determining step that I was learning in titration in chemistry should mean something in real life. Now with computers, I could do that. I remember driving those days. I mean, I'm the first child, so I learned how to drive very early. And then that was when I realized the meaning of rate determining step that I learned in chemistry. Because when you are behind the big trailers, and you want to overtake and you have to take your time, right? So then I'm like, this trailer is determining the rate at which I'll get to Accra. Then it clicked me. Several, I'm like, so this is what rate determining step in titration and the chemistry meant. So why didn't you just explain it that way? And it made me crack my head. We do those calculations. Oh my goodness. If only we could just apply that. You see? So now I'm in a world of computers where whatever I do, I see results immediately. I won't sleep. I'm so excited. I want to build more. I want to do more things. So the Air Force officers were asking my mom, are you sure this guy is not serious? He's too obsessed. He wants to learn. He has this drive. Yeah, like it's because my mom was like, it's because this is a military plate. You let him get there and see, you start misbehaving. She didn't even believe in my ability.
So when did you build, to your mind, when did you build the first prototype of what would become eCampus?
So when I finished the computer school, right? And then I went to, because my mom was a senior staff at the Ghana Port and Harbour Hospital in Takrady. So we have this, once a year you can come for checkups. So I went for that checkup and then I saw a nurse climbing ladders to remove my file. And I was like, have I studied database at the computer school? So I could do a database for this, right? So I went to tell my mom and I was like, oh, you couldn't even pass mathematics. You are talking database. Or you let me talk to the administrator. So I spoke to the administrator, told him what I could do because I just came from computer school. And he said, okay, then he will give me attachments to come and try my hands and see. So when I got there, they moved me to the headquarters to go help with the harbor master's office. So, the ships, they have green and pink cards. And they were packed from the floor to the ceiling. So go and do database for that one rather. So that's where everything started. So I realized that, I could actually apply my things at an industry level. So now I was working at Ports and Harbor. When I realized I could do this thing at scale, then I said, okay, then why don't I just take all the past questions that I have and then do a similar database for them so that when I'm answering the questions, I can see the ones I'm getting wrong, the ones I'm getting right. So I know, okay, this topic, I get a lot more wrong. This topic, I get more right. So I'll focus my energy here so that I can get a pass marks. So this is somebody who is already building databases for Ghana Ports and Harbour, but still struggling to go and pass secondary school exam. So weird. But you're so smart. You're building all these systems. So what is it about this chemistry, physics, maths that you keep failing? Like, I don't know. So in that process, I started doing that. Begged my mom to buy me a computer, which she did. We assembled it, that kind of stuff. Then I put them on diskettes. Then I go and sell to my other colleagues at the remedial schools. Then they will go to the internet cafe, go and plug the diskettes and start practicing. They're like, oh, they like it.
Practicing with the questions
Yeah,
that
the
the
questions on the
database.
diskette, and you see your result immediately. You see your strength and weakness. I use Microsoft Access to do that.
So let's unpack this for anyone listening, especially for people who may be a bit younger. First of all, Microsoft Access is in the Microsoft suite, but it's a database tool that handles more data than Excel. So for anyone who doesn't know, it's like Excel, but for much more information, right? So you start from the very basics, build your own database on questions that you have. All those 4 years of repeatedly taking the exam had paid off because you had a lot of questions, right? You had a question bank. You transpose that into a database that is obviously categorized the same way you categorize the healthcare data, right? And let me unpack this a couple more steps. And then in those days, there were no smartphones.
No.
And most people didn't have a computer or a laptop at home.
You go to the internet.
It's really important that our audience understands this because we're talking back in time. And so you give them a diskette. Now, diskette is one thing that, again, a lot of people have never seen in their lives, but it predates a USB storage. It's a storage device for anyone who doesn't know. And you take it and you go and slot it into a big slot in the computer, which has a big base, and then you can read the information. And that is how eCampus is born.
Yeah, that's how I was born.
Right?
Yes, that's how I was born.
Wow.
So, I mean, sometimes when I remember a situation where, because the floppy disk or the diskette was just 1.44 megabytes, that's all you had. You know, you couldn't.
Is that all we had?
Yeah, that's all we had, 1.44 megabytes. With the diskettes, because it's only 1.44 megabytes, if you want to put the past questions on it, let's say integrated science, past question 1993, 94, 95, 96, it might take up to maybe 94 halfway because it's too small. So now every diskette is just 2 years, 93, 94, another diskette, 95. So that's how I was doing it. And then the colored diskettes start coming in. So the red, the yellow, the green. So the colored diskette were premium, you pay more for it. And then the black standard diskette, you pay less. And that's how I started selling these things on the street in front of communication centers, inside internet cafes, and then remedial schools. So that was what today they call eye tracing, go to market, test your market. I didn't know anything. I was just doing my stuff.
I love this. And I didn't know this part of the story. I didn't even know that you went to literally sell your product, the edtech product.
Yeah, as far back as 2003, I was selling it on the streets of Takrady on diskettes.
So that is where it all started. And it's a personal journey, a personal story, right to the point where now you actually have customers you are selling to.
Yeah.
How did you feel at that point when people started buying your product?
To be frank, felt powerful. I felt like, yes, I told my colleagues I will not go to university. I'm going to start a business. Yes. I knew nothing about how to start a business. But the fact that, they have to pay me money so I can go buy the diskettes to copy the Microsoft Access file on it so they can go to the cafe and interact. So that's how I was getting paid. So I started making money. So I remember Philip Nyakpo, who was a journalist at Sky TV and Sky FM at the time in Takrady. So he came to the internet cafe to do work and he saw what I was doing there. I was like, young man, what is this? So I explained to him. And in 3 days, he interviewed me on TV and I was talking about my dreams, what I want to do. He was like, okay, I understand why you don't want to go to the university. That was my first ever proper interview on TV. Now TV.
I love it. I love it.
And all because I started something on diskettes.
Yeah. No, but think about it. So you're talking around, this was it
2003.
3, okay, 2000. Okay, but if you think about it, back in those days, internet penetration in Ghana was
Very
very
low.
low. Right? Smartphones didn't exist. Like I said, there were a few computers and laptops. You had to literally go to a
Internet
cafe,
cafe,
what we
yeah.
call internet cafe, to access. So this was really way ahead. But I get the sense that while this was way ahead of its time, you were driven by this personal experience and this personal problem you wanted to solve. So this
Exactly.
really, to me, I think about it from a bold new normal point of view. When I always talk about people need to have a vision, bigger than what they can see and not be restricted by what they see around you, right? Because if you had listened to everyone, you wouldn't have done anything. But the fact that you were going from one step to the next and build and build. So today we've gone from the edtech on a diskette
Yeah.
to that's what you started,
Yeah,
right?
that's what we
Edtech on a
started
diskette.
from the diskette, and now we're in the cloud.
So now tell me, before we get to the cloud, let's talk a bit about how then this came together. 2002, 3, 4, we still don't really have smartphones. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, even way back as at 2008 when I joined the telecom industry, we still only had 2G in Ghana.
Exactly.
Right.
Motorola.
So it was around that time that we started introducing 3G in 2008. We didn't do, well, 4G is much later, but 3G we started in 2008. So in terms of this platform where people could access more broadly, I guess there was a journey to be had from there to this one where we access now. So how did you build out from floppy disks to the point where people could log into eCampus? How did that journey, what was that journey like?
So when this whole thing started happening after that interview, my mom's colleagues at work started convincing her to let me go write SAT and go to university in America because they think I'm a genius all of a sudden.
So I need a pause.
All of a sudden, so the guy who couldn't pass math, who was not recognized, always put behind the scenes, is now a genius, must go to America to do computer engineering because I could write a few things on a diskette. You see how gullible our people are?
Sorry,
Africa.
you finished me off with that.
I'm a genius.
No, it's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. It's a good thing that your work was being recognized. But the flip from nobody who needs to be disciplined to genius who needs to get to America by all means necessary. It's just, I don't know how you process this in your head.
Wait, I said, what is SAT? They say it's an exam. I said, another exam.
This is SAT.
Hey, I have managed to escape exam. I've built something on this kid. Now I'm being here as a genius. You want to go write another exam? I'm not trying it. What if I fail?
So you didn't go to America. You stayed and you built.
Yeah.
So let's build now from floppy disk to
So what happened?
access.
What really happened that because I was so obsessed with computers, right? I didn't stay at the Microsoft Access level. And don't forget that I was also working with the Ghana Ports and Harbor. Their harbor master department who controls the ships or the vessels that come. So I needed to build a bigger database. At the point, I realized that Microsoft Access couldn't contain that strength. So I have to learn structured query language. So I have to go and learn SQL. And that one, the money to pay at Microsoft was too much. So I started learning MySQL, Postgres SQL, like all the open source ones. I started using Linux, Sun Solarex. All because I want to because as things scale and meet new challenges, then I have to learn on my own and fix it. That's how it started. So when I got to Accra and I met Sabra Sante and he said, oh, there was a Linux user group that I can work with others, Guido, Blessed Memory, Lorenzo, and co. I had a community of geeks who were as passionate as myself, and I started building stuff. So we didn't even, when people were moving from floppy disks to CD-ROM to pen drive, I moved straight from floppy disks to building my own DNS servers, my own web servers, my own DHCP servers. At a point, I built my entire server, put it on a public IP at Busy Internet, thanks to Erikusi Aquine, and I was hosting on a public IP as early as 2007, 2008. So I built my entire cloud with a public IP with a domain called Aquaba. And I was hosting eCampus on it at busy internet, and the whole world could connect and access it. The jump from
In
floppy disk to that.
2007.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this a little bit for everyone one listening, right? So what you've said there is that you've gone on this journey which was fueled by your personal passion and experience. And then now to go from a product that you can sell yourself to one that a broader audience could access, whether sold directly by you or not, you tapped into a community, right? You acquired a community of developers, right? And this is such an important message to anyone listening and building, especially building anything that is out of the norm, that requires boldness, that you need people to come along with you, right? Because you suddenly had access to information that most people in Ghana didn't have access to. Not because it was hidden, but because if you don't have the right conversations, you wouldn't have known about the free access information to learn yourself. You wouldn't have known about busy internet, and thank God for busy internet. It really fueled so many tech careers in Ghana. And the fact that way back in 2007, again, I reiterate my point about back in 2007, we're still on 2G. So
Yeah.
from a mobile access point of view, we didn't have great internet access. From a fixed line internet point of view, to your point about building this on a server, it was still dial up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The
So it
internet was
was
still
at the time they are introduced what VSAT.
okay. So there was some
We
satellite.
pay $5,000 a month for that direct ID.
Wow,
$5,000
wow,
a month.
wow. And the thing about these stories is that we tell them and we laugh, but the truth of the matter is that they're hard stories. And I'm glad that you shared some of those difficulties. And it must have taken a lot of determination to go from people will buy a floppy disk, because many people would have stopped at selling a floppy disk, to how do I actually create, to your point, back then there was no cloud,
Yeah. So we
AWS
had
and
to
all these.
build our own cloud.
And so you built your own cloud
Yeah.
for people to access. And I think what's really important here is that we're talking about edtech, but what is edtech? You need the foundational
Distraction.
technology for it. You had figured out the content that people needed access to, right? And today in our world in 2026, everybody says content
It's king.
is king. But back then, access was
king.
king.
Yeah.
You have to figure out the access before you can even think about the content. Right? So you went and you learned how to build the access. So now you're a busy internet. Now you have, a company, right?
Yeah.
That people can access from anywhere in the world, access your database of information and learning skills. And we're still at 2007.
Yes.
What happens next?
So at that point, I needed some, formal education, because then we're like, okay, you're this good. They're not. Although the stigma had come down, but once in a while it pops out. So you have to go to school or get some certificate.
People were still questioning your
Exactly.
credibility.
So across the street from this internet was NNIT.
Uh-huh.
So I remember,
NNIT has
yeah. So I
been another
remember,
company that has facilitated.
so I remember Mark Davis, the owner of this internet, Mark Davis. He'll come with his motorbike. We'll chat. Those days, I used to have my ways and means to connect to the internet without paying. And then they discovered, instead of punishing me, he said, no, they should leave me alone. I should show them how I did it, but I shouldn't be connecting other people. So me, I'm free to do whatever I like.
So basically, you hacked busy internet.
Yeah, and I was
They
reselling
figured
it.
out you hacked them, and they wanted to then understand how to prevent someone else from hacking by learning how you hack.
And he wanted me to work for him. I said, no, I don't want to work for him. I want the freedom to experiment. So he was like, okay, are you network certified? Are you what? Microsoft?
Can I just say that we're not encouraging people to hack, by the way?
No, don't go try that.
That's just being very, very transparent and honest, but it's not an encouragement to do the same. Okay, so then he speaks to you about
so he's
what
like, are you
can do.
NCCA certified? Are you what? Microsoft, Oracle? I'm like, I'm not. I was like, look, what's there across the street? NNIT. Go get some certification. No matter how good you are, you need to get some certification. I'm like, okay. So I'll go to NNIT. So when I reached out to my mom and said, I'm going to NNIT, she's like, we want you to go to America. You want to go to NNIT? Okay, no problem. We'll pay for you to go. So I went to NNIT to study e-technologies. I don't know why I chose that, but now in hindsight, it was the best one I chose. Because that was a combination of networking, web development, system design. But most people would have gone straight to networking or hardware or just software. I chose e-technology. I had to learn a bit of everything. And the beauty was, whilst they were teaching me proprietary software like Microsoft, Oracle, my SQL and stuff, I was using the open source tools, MySQL, Postgres, right, MaxDB, Linux, to implement what I was learning. So it meant that when those days you have to pay for the software. You buy the CD, they put in the code. Otherwise, the piracy was not as common. So I don't know. Because I was implementing them in Unix, Linux, and open source tools, I was not limited to what explorations and imaginations I can have. That, I think, was a smart move for me. So I could learn the pure academics. I mean, NNIT belongs to either my Indian brothers, Dav. So those guys were way ahead of us in technology at the time, the Indians. So I could learn directly from them, but I was not limited by proprietary paywalls as to what else I can do, because I could do more with open source tools. So that then gave me my certification so that I can show you, but then I was still doing my own open source things and creating my own imaginations. So that was
As
how I went
usual.
around the whole certification thing.
Okay, so you got your certification. Now you're going to build your company out even more. So how did these newly acquired certifications impact what happened, to eCampus and the next growth phase?
To be honest, those certificates didn't help. It was just, I think what it did was, it maybe toned down the stigma that I could just flash in people's face, but people could still see that there was no pride in it for me. I was still okay with just building stuff, right? So one important thing happened. I was get to the latter part of 2007. Dorothy Gordon, the
I remember her.
the inaugural Director General of the Ghana India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT, right? AITI. So I've been engaged with the center since 2003, 4, when I moved back to Accra with a diskette, trying to be a great guy. So she's been monitoring me. So she called and said, hey, the government have just established the Ghana Multimedia Incubator Center, and they're looking for young tech startups, entrepreneurs. I don't know that word. I didn't even hear it before. So that they'll apply and they'll be incubated. And then I'm like, oh, I call her mommy and say, mommy, which one is this one? Because already, I don't understand it. Already, she was angry with me that she had convinced Patrick Iwa for me to go to Ashase at Labone. I said, school, I won't go. I don't want, because I had that thing against school that I will fail an exam again and then everything will break down. So I didn't go. Then Regent University. Then I said, okay, I'll go to Regent. Because Regent, I didn't have to pay fees, school scholarship, because they wanted eCampus, blah, blah, blah. So when she called back and said this incubator thing, that one is business. You are going there to build your business. It's not like school. I was like, yeah, I will go. So I applied and I got it. So that was our first experience with an incubator. That's 2007.
So would you say that initiative through the Accra India Center,
Yeah, the
Kofi
Ghana
Annan
Kofi Annan
Ghana Kofi Annan
Center
Center,
of
sorry,
Excellence in ICT.
yeah, in Ridge, I know where that is. And the fact that the government, probably through a partnership, set up this incubator, would you say that there was some enablement in the environment for your ambitions?
Yeah, so building up, especially from 2005, 2004, 2005, 2006, when ex-President Kufuor was in charge, you realize that there was a massive drive for digitization. That was when the World Bank gave Ghana some $50 million to do the ICT for accelerated development policy. I was part of the deployment of that policy under President Kufuor. Yeah. At the time, Honorable Professor Michael Quist was the Minister of Communications. So it was a big deal. So that's where Ghana opened up. You remember, that was when President Kufuor would go and be cutting sword for these new banks that came with ATM at once. Because ATM was a luxury at the time. So they were opening up the system. So to create an enabling environment, or to make sure that the IT systems that will run this accelerated development are not foreign, but also local based, they set up an incubator, a business incubator, to groom young talents that are, passionate about technology, to build businesses that can benefit for this accelerated growth that the World Bank is financing, so that it will not be dominated by foreigners. So that was the whole idea. And then we got into the incubator, and the rest is history. At the same time, Busy has also launched their Busy Incubator. So Busy launched their Busy Incubator for about a year or two before the government launched their own. So around that time, Ghana was becoming more open to, technology, connectivity. Then around that time, too, my brothers were doing all this elf crane and hacking credit cards, and Ghana got blacklisted. It was that turmoil. Everybody was trying everything. The Yahoo boys, that period. So you could easily be distracted if you're not focused on what exactly you want to do.
Yeah, you're
I
trying
was
to
building
achieve.
servers at the time. I was building VPN system for banks at the time. So my focus was more on what productiveness of the technology to earn real money, instead of the shortcuts that my other brothers were doing.
Yeah.
You know
And
what
that,
I mean?
I know what you mean. And that point that you just made is an interesting one, because when we started this conversation, you talked about the fact that you're passionate because you could have become anything
Yeah.
else. You could have become, a drug pusher, or whatever. You described the various things. And where we are in this story, given a few years, several years down the line, where you have persisted in building one block at a time, meant that you weren't in that position.
No.
And you could see how your know-how, your passion, your drive, your curiosity, your willingness to challenge the status quo was delivering results and getting
Of
recognized,
course.
because people like Dorothy
Gordon.
Gordon are very, very well respected. Yeah. And they had time for you. So it was a recognition that you were actually building something that they too valued, and they could see where this was going. So once you got through the incubator, then it sounded like now eCampus
It's
was
a proper
properly
business.
established.
We need to make
Yeah,
it a proper business. And that was very good
exactly.
for us. So at the time, there were still structural challenges. Like you said, computer labs were very inadequate. Internet connectivity was still a challenge. So most people view what I was doing more of, Ghana is not ready. Let's see when Ghana is ready. So they keep support to give you moral support, but we think Ghana is not ready, but you keep going. One day Ghana will be ready and you will blow. You know how Ghanaians do it. One day
This is
Ghana will be
interesting.
ready, you blow, because computer penetration, internet penetration, and the kind of things I needed. I mean, to the extent that I had to go and learn the LTSP technology, the Linux Terminal Server Project, LTSP, where you can use dead computers. They don't have hard disks, they don't have processors. All they have is memory sticks in the system unit, and connect them to one powerful machine, and all of them will ride on the power of that powerful machine. So that we can use dead computers to build libraries so that people can learn. Because any roadblock I hit, so I remember the first time I met President Kufuor and greeted him was when I was demonstrating the LTSP project with eCampus on it, so that it could be distributed in schools as libraries, and they were offline. That was 2005, 2006, in the e-learning.
So you were looking at a workaround to the lack of internet penetration. People still needed to do this on a much bigger device and have access to a device. They may not have access to, the internet, but your
Offline.
edtech solution is they can do it offline. That's awesome. So now you have a system that's gone through the changes, and now it can be accessed on a computer on and offline, right? But you're bearing in mind the change, but you still changes to the environment, the internet penetration, the system, but you still have people also telling you
We're
that
not
this
ready.
can't be done. We're not ready
Yes,
for you.
we're not ready. And I bought, for some reason, I bought into the we're not ready thing, because I was getting frustrated. So, the last nail to the last word, nail to the coffin, that made me bought into the "we are not ready" idea, which at the time was devastating, but now was good, was when the venture capital trust fund was launched by ex-President Kufuor. So Activity Venture, who were supposed to distribute the funds, we felt that, because we are part of the Ghana Multimedia Incubator Center, we've done track record, we've done things, so they will give us money so that we can do all these setups so that the schools can come on board and all of that. Then I realized it's not that straightforward. We had to do what? Private placement memorandum. Now, what's that? We need to do valuation. We need to do audits, business plan. Hey,
That's what venture capitalists
yeah,
need.
like I didn't know anything. This is 2007, 2008. So luckily, 2007, we won the World Bank, the InfoDev of the World Bank Innovator Award. So the prize money and then the traveling to Rio de Janeiro and things, I said, no, they should send me the money so that I'll use to pay for all these private placement memorandum, evaluation, dates, everything. So when the UNDP heard that, they sent me the money and UNDP top up the money. But UNDP was funding the gimmick, the multimedia project. So they top up and we went to pay under, paid what? Kelly and Winley, and they did all that paperwork for me. We went to present it to what? Adegalam, Charles and his brother Chris. Oh, Chris, blessed memory. Right? They were running the venture thing. And they told me that it was too good to be true. And I mean, I see you, I should be able to calculate my own present value, my own quick ratios. I don't have a degree. I mean, this is good, but I don't think I can run it. So maybe they'll help me, send me to Yale. When I come back, they will find somewhere in the company for me. And that day, their office was behind Metro TV. Their office was behind Metro TV. I had spent so much money. And I came with their consultants, all the people. We defend everything. Just give us the money. I walked.
Wow. So
like, I was so annoyed. I was talking to myself walking, right? Before I realized I was at 37.
So let's unpack this a little bit. You built a company, you incubated, now people can access the edtech content on and offline because you're solving for a particular environment. You have an opportunity to get venture capital investment through a fund that's been set up. You're suddenly told that you had to do all of this paperwork, valuation, get legal representation. You talk about ANDA and so on. At the same time, there's a separate World Bank competition that you enter and you win.
Yeah.
You win the competition. You have prize money and the opportunity to travel
Brazil to pick that one.
You say, actually, give me the prize money and give me the travel money as well, because I've got expenses to pay to get this venture capital. They say, actually, we'll help you do all of that because we think your idea is brilliant. They help you, you put it together, you go and present only to be told it's too good to be true. And again, go to America to go and get a degree. Love it. You've got to laugh. Like, I laugh, but this is serious because we've got to, as part of creating our bold new normal as a country and continent, we've got to believe in ourselves enough to know that we are enough validation for ourselves. What exactly do people keep thinking you were going to learn elsewhere when you had produced a solution, a viable working edtech solution, eCampus, in the country where you're serving? What were you going to learn elsewhere? And it's this thing where we keep doing that. We want someone else's approval outside of our continent to say that what we're doing is great. And what we are doing on our own can't be great enough in its own right.
Yeah, I'm tired of that. I face it. I live it all the time.
And left you frustrated, almost giving up. But you didn't give up.
I was quick. Like, that was 2008. So, I mean, at that point, I was like, okay, what is present value? I don't know. Quick exit ratios? I don't know.
You know now, obviously, by the way you're saying.
At the time. So I was asking myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, discounted ratio. What is that? I don't know. Okay, fine. You know what? I'm not going to Yale. I'm not going to Harvard. I'll find a business school here in Ghana. And I'll learn all these things and I'll come back. I was so mad. So out of frustration, I spoke to a few people. Dorothy Gordon was involved. Solomon Date, Franklin, and Fred Ampere of UNDP. And I was like, oh, go to GIMPA. They will understand you. So I remember I walked to Gimpa. I went to the registry at the time. It was called Julius, and my dad is also Julius. So I told him my frustration. I was like, you are the perfect candidate. We just started a business school course on entrepreneurship and SME management. We need people like you who are already doing the thing to come. And I'm like, but there's a problem. I don't have SSC. You remember, for everything I built to make sure that I passed the 4th time, I didn't write the 4th time because I had started a business on diskettes. So now, and I didn't go and write the SAT. So now I don't have anything to go to Gimpa. And Julius was like, what was the first one? The 1, 2, 3, or you failed. Go and bring it. So I went to bring them, and then they admitted me into Gimpa to do entrepreneurship and SME management. I bought only 2 books in the 4 years, financial management and strategic planning, just to go and get back at Charles and Chris.
And so you went and you learned all the business.
Yeah. So that transition from a nerd, right, to becoming a business manager, a business person, becoming the proper CEO and corporate governance, strategy. That transition happened while I was in Gimpa. So in 2009, when I got admission to Gimpa, I closed down eCampus. I just said enough. I'm sure people say you were not ready. And you keep asking me for credentials when I'm pushing you. So you know what? 4 years, eCampus closed down. Nobody can have access to it. Yeah, I shut the whole thing down. And then I went to Gimpa. But then all the questions I asked in class were about all the things I went through, the challenges, what didn't work. So I was really getting value from the program. Like I was enjoying the program because I was like, okay, then this was, it wasn't entirely their fault. They were right. Because if you're in my shoes, money, you can't just give me money like that. So that I could relate. And I was now grateful. So when I graduated Gimpa in 2013, right before my graduation even, I got into this MBA on a scholarship because I had now refined the eCampus idea, pitched it to the Catholic University of Milan. That's the program I want to come and improve at the MBA. And I got a full scholarship. So eCampus had a new beginning. With now, the nerd turned what? Business guy who knows present value. Future.
I love it. I love this story.
And now he has a full scholarship to now go to Catholic University of Milan, not just US again. Now, when I'm done, let's talk. So that was the whole anger at the time.
Well, it's positive. It's positive anger, right? You channeled it into every time, because you're a challenge the status quo guy. So every time someone challenged you, you felt you had to prove them wrong. Every time. And even the fact that you were willing to take time out to build yourself up. So look, we're talking about a journey where at the very minimum started, at least, 26, 7 years ago, right? In really actually recognizing there's a problem to be solved. And I think it's important that everyone listening recognizes that it takes time to build. So when you came back from your MBA and you revamped eCampus, and this was around the time that you and I guess, you were meeting various people.
Yes, 2014, 2015.
Exactly. Now that you had your business understanding as well, how did you pivot the company?
Very, very, very interesting. So this is what happened. Through the MBA, we had stripped bare everything. And now we had to build eCampus based on science, based on research. So the research I did during my MBA was to understand how the human brain learns voluntarily. So that we're going to build the solution based on science. So that was a good thing about the MBA. First, we're building based on instincts, past experience. You're like, forget all of that. The world will change. Science will never change. So go research how the brain works. And what we realized was that no matter how smart or dumb somebody is, they can only process, absorb, and recall 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they see, 50% of what they see and hear, 70% of what they do, and 95% of what they teach to others. That's how the human brain works. Whether you are Einstein or you are whoever, that's how the brain works. That's why you can read the whole Harry Potter, you will not remember, but you watch the movie, you remember more. It's just how the brain works.
This makes so much sense. this made sense because when I was in school, one of the things I loved was if someone asked me to explain something. I always loved that. And I felt it helped me learn the subject more. But obviously, I didn't know the science
That was
behind why I
95% recall rate.
realized that it made me learn more. Makes sense.
95% recall rate. Wow, that was good for you. So when that was ready,
that was the tool it was one of the tools in my repertoire, and it really worked. Exactly. It really, really worked. So now you had science.
Yes,
you
now
had
we have like science.
Business, you had the science.
Yeah. So now we need to build, right? But then the 4 year I was away, technology had evolved. So now there were what? Apps. So there was what? App Store, Play Store. So the languages I used to code in, which is PHP, and those things are beginning to fade away. You know, Flash is gone now. We have to learn React. I have to learn what? New things to build native apps. So I'm like, yeah, and this is going to be good. So then I realized that, hey, maybe it's time to build a team.
Exactly.
Maybe, because I can't do all.
Exactly.
So I set out to build a team. I mean, the first group of people I built, after 8 months, I had to fire everybody. But the second group of people, I'm glad to say they are still with us up to today.
Awesome.
They were younger.
Awesome.
They were younger. They were still in second year at the University of Mines in Takwa when I got them. And they're still with me today. There, awesome. I could, because I understood the whole code base, how it should work, the flow, the user experience. The only thing that I didn't know how to use React, and I wasn't ready to go learn React. Like, come on, I've gone past it.
Yeah.
So I could tell them exactly what to do, and we're able to build. So we started developing what you now know as eCampus, what you will see today as eCampus. We started developing it on the what? In what? How do you call it? April, May, June, right? May. Yeah, so we started developing it in what? So in March of 2015, then we started developing it. And in 3 months, 90 days, we went live on Android, iOS, BlackBerry, and Windows, plus web.
Can I pause you there? It's very easy for somebody to walk away with a sound bite that you started an idea, built a team, and in 3 months it was online, right? It was available in the app stores. The truth is, you executed over 3 months, but you had built over more than close to 2 decades of building.
Yes.
Right. And this is an important message that people understand. It's taking grit, determination, several knocks that each time you're knocked, you have to get up. So when you built the new eCampus 11 years ago, what was the service providing? Now you understood human behavior. So your target audience, you weren't just thinking about a need, which is we all know that in business, you need to solve a problem, provide for a need. But now you had learned about the behavior and what makes people successful in learning. So how was your new product different?
So the new eCampus was positioned as a guide, a partner, an alternative, and a disruptor. That's how it was positioned. And don't forget, around that time, teachers felt edtech was a threat. So they will sabotage any edtech solution you send to schools. People felt what technology will replace teachers. No. After understanding the science, we were the few people saying that no way. Technology is supposed to aid, to provide guide, bridge, partner with the teacher. We were the few people saying that as far back then. So when we say partner or bridge, who are the stakeholders? Teachers, students, parents, headmasters, district directors of education, regional director of education, all the way to the minister, right? How can our solution partner all of them? What's the teacher's biggest challenge? Is to achieve differentiated learning. Why? Because of what? High teacher to student ratios. So that's a fundamental problem every teacher has. Understanding your class, knowing their strength and weakness through observation, which is called differentiated learning. It's impossible when you are dealing with 300 students. So our solution, eCampus, should be able to help or partner the teacher achieve differentiated learning in less than 15 to 20 minutes. So bridge it. Yes. So that will make the teacher our number one advocate, our number one salesperson, our number one evangelist, built into the whole idea. So when we go to teachers and tell them that this can help you do this, they're like, okay, they try it, they're impressed. Then they tell parents that, hey, this will really help. So we help bridge and we partner the teacher. Now, as an alternative and a disruptor, we were quite very subtle on those ones because people were scared when we say it. So when people thought that our competition was other edtech products, we knew from the very beginning our competition was the publishing houses. I mean, in 2003, 2002, when I started in diskettes, you were not there, so you cannot compete with me. You are not a competition. I mean, I understood that. When I transitioned from diskette to a cloud, I mean, you were not, and I built the entire vertical integration myself. So there's no way you will come win and become my competition. So I needed a real competition, which was the publishing houses, the Akiola, the A+ series, right? All those books, because they are the ones who appear on the prospectus of students. And if you are not on the prospectus, a parent will not pay for it. Anything outside the prospectus is considered by parents as a luxury. So if we were to succeed, we must find a way to change the thinking of the system to accept that eCampus should appear on the prospectus of junior high school and senior high school students before they go to school. That was the uphill we're climbing. So as an alternative, we are saying that textbooks are great, but we want to bring textbooks to life. You can read to get your 10%. You can listen to a podcast of what you just read to get your 20%. You can watch a video to get your 50%. Practice with sample questions to get your 70%. And then discuss to get your 95%. A book cannot give you that. A paper hard book cannot give you that. It's not interactive. You can't answer questions and see immediately. And then now we can now measure to know which topic you are good, which topic you are strong. So it begins to make sense. So yes, of course, the publishers were not happy with us. They were bigger than us. They had more money than us. I mean, the schools didn't have internet. They didn't have tablet. They didn't have laptops. In a way, we looked like a disruptor, but at the time, we're like a pawn in the whole chessboard. So they didn't take us serious. So when COVID hit, then they realized they should have partnered us. I'll leave it there.
Thank you for tuning in to The Bold New Normal. I hope this episode has inspired you to think boldly and take action towards creating the future you envision. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs a dose of boldness today. Until next time, take action, create your bold new normal.